The reason I'm so baffled is the decision to hide and bury two of the most amazing riffs in one of the most bizarre fever dreams of a fucking song I've ever heard.
I think I gotta support it here.
Welcome to Every Album Ever with Mike and Alex. My name is Michael Mansour, and I'm joined, as always, by my sleeveless co-host, Alexander Volts. Say hello.
Hello.
This is Every Album Ever, the podcast where we listen to every single album in the world, one artist at a time. That's a whole new discography per episode, and today we'll be discussing every album by...
We'll be doing Steely Dan Part 2. I'm just kidding.
No! No! We're never doing Steely Dan ever again.
We're talking about Shellac today. Emergency episode on Shellac.
Emergency episode on Shellac. Obviously, with the recent passing of Steve Albini, we're devastated. Truly devastated. We also covered Big Black and Rapeman in the past, so go check out both those episodes.
As well as a million albums that he's produced.
A million albums that he's produced. Sorry, engineered, recorded, whatever. There's also an entire touch and go playlist on the YouTube. He did a lot of touch and go bands. He did a lot of those bands. The man had his finger in everything that we enjoy, pretty much. And the loss has been fucking excruciating. We talked about it a little bit on the Hot Snakes episode. And I want to announce it. That sounds so fucking pretentious. Next week. From this, if you're watching this the week of the release next week, we're going to be doing a special sort of memorial episode. That sounds a little dramatic. It's not going to be like, tears or anything, but it's going to be me talking with Alex, me talking with Tom, our history guy, and me talking with my brother Robert, who many of you have seen on a good chunk of episodes. Talking about the impact, talking about our favorite albums that he was involved with. Just a nice little, look back tribute, so to speak. Because God damn it, I'm still not over it. It's the worst loss of music in my whole life.
Oh man. Yeah. It's crazy. It's just crazy. I'll save it. I'll save it for next week, but it's just kind of crazy, someone who has their producer side and their band side be just as prolific. I'll just say that for now. Yeah,
I started with I'm already wanting to talk about the man's legacy. That's for next week. We're going to do that next week. It's probably going to be a long episode. This is probably a long episode, whatever. Anyway, today we're talking about Shellac. Finally getting to it. We did Rapeman Forever a million years ago. It's taken us way too long, and it's sad that this is what gave us the kick in the ass to do it, but whatever, we're here. So if I'm not misremembering, you hadn't heard them before this?
No.
Wow. Wait, refresh my memory. Were you a fan of Big Black or Rapeman before we did the episodes?
No, I was not. I was gonna save that for next week, where I was just more whatever, I'll double dip. I was just more a fan of his recording techniques, and this is the more brief rundown. And I had a friend who loved him, but I don't think he did the best job in the world, selling his bands to me. Not like that's his job. But when I was younger, they just seemed a little chaotic because that's what my friend was into. So I would see the album covers or oh, that's, Big Black songs about fucking. That's hilarious.
It sure is. It's a great album, dude.
It was from afar, but in my head, it was more chaotic than it actually is. And getting into his bands has been mostly because of this podcast.
I would say that's a huge accomplishment for us in general. We got you into it. I
feel like it would have happened anyways. It's just so hard to guess what my musical journey would be like without this podcast, because it's just so impactful on what I listen to now.
I would say the only thing I could say for sure about that is that whatever journey we would have been on without the podcast would have been a lot slower.
Oh yeah.
That's for damn sure. But
more easygoing,
or definitely easygoing, a lot less stressful, a lot less deadlines. That's for damn sure. It's the same amount of money, But we're going to be talking about all the records. And I didn't like go crazy. There's a couple of EPs, especially the first ones. I re-listened to them just out of fondness. Because I mean, I've heard all these records, except for the one that just came out this year, 1,000 times. So it's just sort of a trip down memory lane kind of thing for me. But just the albums for this one, with a little asterisk, the album, The Futurist, for fans who know, it is an album that exists. We will be talking about it a little bit, but we're not going to be including it in like our picks for best and worst, because technically it wasn't even supposed to be heard by us, you know. Mm-hmm. It was an album made for friends. It's not really, you know, it's instrumental. It's not really like, it doesn't feel very fair to count it along with the rest of the albums.
It's not canon.
It doesn't seem canon, but we'll talk about it because we did listen to it. But yeah, I go back with Shellac, pardon the rhyme. So far, they're been one of my favorite bands since I was, I don't know, probably 14 or something like that. And I remember finding them because I discovered Big Black and Rapeman because of my brother Robert, who you guys, I mentioned before, and he's on a million episodes with us. Most recently, Mescal, who you should check out that episode. It's so good. So good.
One of our best.
One of our best, easily. I'm so proud of that episode. But he found Big Black and Rapeman, and I you know, fell in love, of course. And Shellac was the band where he was like, I have all these albums. You buy some Shellac albums. That'll be you can have this one. So I promptly did that and fell in love. So I had like a little bit more of a personal connection with Shellac because of that, because I was the one who was buying the album instead of my brother. Yeah. When you grow up with a household like that, when you have older brothers, there's a lot of not anymore, but back in the days before the internet, whatever, it was a lot of arguing who got to buy which album, who got to own which album. At least that's how it was in my household. So that was like a big deal for me. I get to have my own Albini band. Yeah.
I think once in a blue moon, my sister and I had some overlapping tastes, and we just kind of fought like cats and dogs. So we may have owned two of the same.
Oh.
It didn't happen. It didn't happen too much, but
it's funny because really there shouldn't be anything wrong with having your own copy of the same album, but it just seemed wrong. Like it was like, we can't have the same album.
You guys are
madness.
You guys are jamming Econo over there.
It's sure smart. Check it out on the Minuteman.
It's smart.
Yeah. But yeah, I was a big fan, and I remember just how big of a deal it was when a new Shellac album came out, because the gaps are huge, and the fact that one came out this year was like, oh fuck, it's the longest gap between any album of theirs in the band's history. And then, you know, a fucking few days before or a week before it comes out, Albini dies, and it's just the worst fucking thing ever. So this stung, like going back to these albums, even though it was really nice and enjoyable, it fucking hurt by the end of it. By the end of this discography, I was so sad,
man.
Yeah. But we're going to talk all about the band, all about so enough about not too much about the history, just like some stuff from some interviews. But it's going to be music centered. And we have some notes here from our boy, Tom Osman, who should all go support and follow. He pulled an interview. I think it was the last interview with Albini before he died from this year, 2024. It's from The Wire. It's called I wanted it to be for keeps. An oral history of Shellac, and there's a lot of juice here. Tom has his preface. I didn't give him much notice before telling him that, like, oh, by the way, we're recording in a couple days. And usually I give him like a few weeks to prepare.
Yeah, this was very, very last second.
Yeah. He says, okay, look, this episode is being recorded today, so I don't have much time to throw some notes in here. He says this interview by Emily Pothist with Steve Albini, Bob Weston, and Todd Trainer for The Wire is one of the last interviews Albini ever did. Okay, one of the last, not the last. They give a lot of insight about their history, and it's quite philosophical. That's great, but not the most convenient for just pulling out some simple sound bites about their history and records. Check out the interview in full. I will do my best to pull out something relevant here. So right here, he writes, the quotes below are on the topic of what came before Shellac and the influence on how they would operate the band. For those who don't know, Steve Albini, guitar vocals, Bob Weston, bass vocals, Todd Trainer, drums, and sometimes vocals. Steve said, well, I don't want to speak for Bob and Todd, but we came up in very similar circumstances. like we played in bands and our bands functioned in the punk and post-punk underground of the US. A lot of that was informed by a very DIY sensibility where you do as much as you can for yourself and you don't expect indulgences from other people and you work with the available materials. Like these are the kind of clubs we play in, so we're going to suit our stage behavior to playing in these kinds of clubs. You know, these are the size of audience that we're going to have, so we're going to suit our expectations to the size of audience, you know, that kind of thing. And so you develop a pattern of behavior and you develop a mode of thinking where none of that stuff is a consideration. Now, if I had come of age in a later generation where you could shoot yourself singing on your iPhone and post it on YouTube and be an international star, like if that was the reality, I'm sure I would be an awful person by now. If I had come of age later where I didn't have to make do with scraps and I didn't have to just put things together on a shoestring, I'm sure that would have played into my vanity and that I'd be awful.
At least he can admit it and has the thought to realize that. A lot of people aren't even that self-aware.
I don't know. It's been said a lot, but you really do need a hard life to be a better person. I mean, not for everybody, but for a lot of people. Sometimes you just need to experience what it is to exist, and sometimes it takes doing things the hard way, whether you like it or not. Yeah, it's interesting for our generation being just right in the middle of that, where we saw it happen, but we also saw it not happen. I feel like that's going to be a valuable perspective in like 4 decades from now.
I've always felt like my generation was kind of like accidental.
How so?
Like we didn't have any great wars. We're kind of between these two other opposed generations.
Yeah.
It's just I almost feel like taken out of a different timeline and put into an alternate Earth. I'm sure if you go like through history, there's other generations that kind of feel like that. But for me personally,
yeah, it's a little bit. I still I long for the days when we were the whiny kid generation, and now we're like the weird ones whose development was fucked up by the internet. Like our parents got divorced when we were like 12. That's our generation. That's what it feels like.
Yeah, there's a lot of like unique things. Almost like that Hunter S. Thompson quote. Too weird to live, too rare to die.
Yeah.
Like we're just kind of unique in a way a lot of people don't appreciate and
don't like, and I don't blame either one of them.
Yeah, they both make sense to me.
Bob Weston here said, I played in a band called the Volcano Suns for a while before I moved to Chicago. That was my big band before I joined Shellac. The thing that I think is interesting is that I think all three of us, our playing styles are pretty different in our previous bands and how they are in Shellac. I'm not quite sure how we ended up playing the way we play together. This is the response on how they define Shellac or how they approach the band separate from other projects. Bob said, I think all three of us had been playing in bands as our hobby that we loved, and we all had jobs, and we would all get in a van with a sound guy and travel the country. And so when we started doing Shellac, we were like, why would we change any of that? It'll be the three of us and a sound guy in a van playing small clubs, touring the country whenever we felt like it. So it never made sense to do it any differently because that's how we had been doing it for years. Todd Trainer says, oh, well, one of Steve and I's first conversations essentially was what did we enjoy about our previous bands and what didn't we enjoy about our previous bands? What did we learn from our previous experiences? And just try to sort of sketch out a rough outline that was, hey, here are the things that worked, that we enjoyed, and these were the things that we didn't, and just kind of try to model it after our best experiences and avoid our worst experiences. This is interesting. I didn't know this about the band live. Todd said, Steve didn't want to have monitors. He didn't want to rely on monitors because sound checks could turn into these major projects in themselves. That was the idea behind just having one drum monitor and having the drum kit set up in front of the bass cabinet and in front of the guitar cabinet so that we had one monitor to rely on, one mix to rely on. That's fucking interesting. I did not know that.
Yeah, it makes sense. I feel like I've seen quite a few bands where, like he said, it just turns into its own thing.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm wondering why don't more bands do that?
Because they suck. They suck, Mike.
Because they suck. All right. Well, I got the answer at least. Jesus Christ. Steve also says, Yeah, a lot of bands have other people that they delegate stuff to because they don't want to deal with it. Like they have a booking agent to book their tours because they don't want to have to deal with it, and they end up having just as many problems with their booking agent as they would had if they had called the club themselves. And there's this layer of administration that kind of irritates and obfuscates things. Damn, I suck at that word. There was a big discussion a few months ago about how there are all these things that get added to a contract between a band and a club when they're playing. Like merchandise fees was a hot talking point for a couple hours. Speaking of which, Live Nation, go fuck yourself.
Go fuck yourselves, buddies.
For those who don't know, they now take, I think, 25% of merch sales from all their
venues,
shows.
Which is most venues.
Yeah, which is basically robbing the band's blind. Go fuck yourself. He goes on to say, like, if you buy a t-shirt from a band at a certain venue, the venue takes 35%, so they have to increase the price of the t-shirt, damn. 35 is damn.
Even more highway robbery.
But if you're booking the gig yourself, there's no way you would put up with that, right? Basically having intermediaries between us and other people, like you didn't have to go through a press person to speak to us. Your magazine just emailed us. We were like, yeah, sure. Like we don't have a publicist. We don't have a lawyer. We don't have a manager. We barely have a record label. And it's true. Touch and Go is very hands off.
I get it for a gigantic band like the Rolling Stones having all those things, but smaller bands.
Yeah. Why complicate it? Why complicate it if all you want to do anyway is just play a fucking club to some fans and sell a couple records? I mean, or sell whatever the hell you got. We're selling records these days. But yeah, that's about it for some of their background. We'll get more into the everything with Steve Albini and all this stuff on the Memorial stuff, Memorial episode next week. But now it's time to talk about some music. So we're going to be discussing in total 7 albums. We're only going to be really focusing on 6. First one came out in 1994. Last one this year, 2024. Are you ready, Alex?
I'm ready.
Hell yes. This is 1994's At Action Park. That goddamn Albini guitar tone.
It's not as metallic as Big Black.
Not even close. You know it's him. It's still similar, but it's not even close to his fucked up. Gotta love this bass line. Oh, it's so goddamn good.
You know what I like that Shellac does that I didn't think would be a thing? They can take a hard rock guitar riff and just make it weird.
Yep. Oftentimes. This is probably one of my favorite openers of all time.
Also, like a dum-dum, after I listened to this and went on the wiki, I didn't even think about how a band like Shellac was like a blueprint for the band Whores.
Oh yeah, duh.
And now I'm like, oh, duh.
Yeah. God damn, it rules. All right, let's talk about some goddamn music.
I don't know if this is a hot take, but I'm coming in best personal favorite.
Personal favorite.
Okay.
And not surprised, this album is fucking incredible.
They have lots of good albums.
Yes.
But going through this discography, nothing quite shook my core, my soul as positively as the way this one did. I still remember when I first heard this album. It was the second Shellac album I heard. And the second I heard it, I was like, shit, this is my favorite thing ever. This is my favorite thing ever. To the point where it was the first album that I remember, at least that I remember, where I was rationing listens, where I didn't want to listen to it too many times because I wanted to enjoy every listen. I wanted to fucking savor every listen of it. Yeah, I think it's one of their best paced. The amount of memorable ass hooks on this album, it's jam packed more than any other, I'd say. It's crazy. On that opener, obviously we weren't going to get to it, but man, the last 30 seconds on My Black Ass is intense. It's gnarly. Also, one of the best song titles ever. Yeah. Going to the album title, I wonder if it's named after like the action park, which
It is in Jersey.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Man,
from
that
Jersey.
place, man, what a nightmare.
That place, for those who don't know, Action Park was a theme park in New Jersey that people died at. Like, it was the most notoriously dangerous, like not up to standards, just shitty theme park. And in the actual record CD, whatever, there's like a fold out poster of like a fictionalized version of it. Like, you know, they give you the maps at Disneyland and shit like that, which is neat. But yeah, the only pacing issue I have with this whole album is track 2. Because
really,
yeah, I like the song "Pull the Cup," but for pacing, for one, it slows things down quite a bit. It's not a slow song, but it does slow things down a bit compared to the opener. And it's instrumental and it's a little lengthy. It's just an odd choice for a track 2.
I was just like, I love Trainer's beats. He's just a beat machine. I love how there's a lot of instances where instead of playing off the bass, he'll play off guitar riffs, and he somehow just gets locked in and mimics it perfectly. I think that's the case here.
I think we can spend a good hour just talking about Todd's drumming. Like,
probably,
dude, he's. I didn't appreciate him nearly as much until I got a little older, because he is not a fucking a million fills, fucking crazy drum rolls and wacky stuff. He is straight up machine-like. He's a very Dale Crover kind of style, where less hit, less notes, but each one has such character. He has a really unique personality with drums. There's a lot of just, yeah, the beats are riffs, but they're not even like, they're just odd, because you hear stuff where like a band like Proto Martyr, where yeah, their beats are so memorable and so riff-like, but they're repetitive and they kind of stick in your head. These aren't like that. These are like really complex, but still unorthodox, and really, you could tell he spent a lot of time writing like these parts.
Oh yeah, or at least just like maybe he has an idea for a beat and does it, and he's just like works through it until he gets the one we hear on albums.
I'm pretty sure that's how they wrote in general. They'd work stuff out on stage, and eventually it would kind of take shape.
So I have a question on that Admiral.
Yeah.
Because I know does Albini do like those shaky, paranoid sounding vocals, or does he do like the more talking ones?
On the Admiral?
Yeah. Or is it
he
just
sounds a little shaky on the verses to the Admiral.
Okay.
Yeah. Speaking of the Admiral, man, there's something about that intro. It's simple. It's just bass and drums doing one open hit. For some reason, it's like, ooh, what's gonna happen next? It's something really like there's something very weirdly intense about it. But it's one of their fucking best songs. It's such a catchy main riff.
I like Albini jams that are a little groovier, so that it fits the bill for me.
Yep. Crow, all-time goddamn great. It's a fucking all-time great. God damn it, is an all-time great.
Yeah, I think maybe there's some overlap with Nirvana's In Utero being so close in recording to this one, but man, yeah, that big heavy bass line, the thundering toms, driving bass drum.
Yep.
Love how nasty the vocals sound.
Well, so one thing about that main riff, it's super simple. It's super similar to the song Wingwalker from the Uranus EP, which is the second EP. There was like this early period, the 93 area, 93, 94. Man, there's a lot of overlap in song styles. There's a song that was only on a compilation. I forgot the name of the compilation, but the song is called Killers. It's one of their best fucking songs. It's an amazing song. But the bass line has like the exact same cadence and rhythm as a bass line from the next album. And then Wingwalker is like the same exact template of Crow, but not quite as developed. It's a little bit more loose. So it's like they had these ideas but they just kind of kept with him and they just took a different shape as they went along. So you hear a lot of like similar bass lines. You hear a lot of similar guitar lines, a lot of hammer on pull off stuff from Steve. Even, I mean, a lot of hammer on stuff from Bob as well. It's just, you hear like the style slowly change, but you know exactly where it came from. It came from like one. Yeah. It's interesting.
Song of Minerals is oddly like that jazz guitar could be jazz if there wasn't like this noise element added to it. It gets very unhinged when it peaks.
You're saying jazz. I was thinking like a clangy funk guitar.
Yeah, that works too. I guess there is some overlap. I guess I'll call it Ornette Coleman-esque for fans of Ornette Coleman.
Mm-hmm.
There's one album that is like funky, but it's fucked up free jazz funk. Body meta, but it's more in the vein of that Ornette Coleman album. Body meta.
Okay. Yeah, it starts out with that jazzy funky guitar, and but when the bass and drums come in, it becomes the hookiest shit ever. Like super straightforward, super accessible. It's really great. And then around 3:30, Bob starts singing. Because he sings a lot on this album. He kind of trades back and forth with Steve. On this album, it's a lot of trading back and forth on the songs. Whereas later on, he'll kind of take over whole songs by himself. But he trades with him on Crow. And then at 3:30, where Bob starts singing, it's fucking amazing. The guitar starts playing the bass line, and the bass starts playing these fucking gorgeous chords that ring out. It's a really brief section, but it's just fantastic.
Yeah, I like how those really like bright guitar parts that you're talking about, like the bass line is this continuing to drive the song there. It's a cool dynamic.
It is. Also, I forgot to mention, like we talked about Crow being this heavy, crazy bass line thing, but the places that song ends up, like at 3 minutes in, the song completely shifts. It gets fucking fast and high energy, and it gets mean, and it just ends with the biggest climax. It's one of the best build-up songs, I think, in the entire discography. That just had to throw that in there. A Minute, I think, is another all-time favorite of mine.
It's very anxiety-inducing, as you know. It's about what I expect from an Albini band. And then there's like these slight guitar shredding parts that make it very unique and interesting. There's a lot of throughout their career these start stop or like Morse code riffs that are featured here as well.
A lot of that kind of stuff where, like single snare hits doing, everyone in unison, but it's just a snare hit. Really tight chokes, super tight chokes. Yeah, that one opens up with like the most unassuming hard rock riff, kind of, and then fucking goes into this vicious minor key thing with these octave chords, octave guitar chords. It's just a fucking great song.
I'm sure it's a beloved song, and you had pacing issues with the second song. Dog and Pony Show is the only time where I'm like, if they trim this, I don't know if I would have noticed.
Gonna agree with you on that one.
Okay, wow.
Dog and Pony Show is a fine song. I don't mind it at all, but it's an ugly fucking song. It's really ugly, and it does take up a lot of space. It has like a lot of cool moments, but yeah, I never care for it as much as some of the other ones. I still like it more than I like, let's say, a weaker song from like, a Future album. I still think it flows with the album good enough, but yeah, I'm going to have to agree with you on that one. The Idea of North is fucking Shellac doing Slint, which is wild.
Yes, and that does happen quite a bit too. It is nice to have a song, it's not quiet all the way through, but quieter in parts.
Yeah.
And I think at that point, I was just like, yeah, Trainer is the man. Like this, I know from here on out, this guy's got beats for days.
The drums on that song, such a great beat. It reminds me of something that they do with a Big Black drum machine, where like, because of the drum machine, they just got creative with the beats. They're just really memorable beats. It really made me think of that. But it has total Slint, quiet loud, quiet energy. And even like the big heavy section, it's like it reminds me of fucking Breadcrumb Trail. Like it sounds like a Slint, but it's goddamn, it's great. And it's also wonderful for pacing because it follows A Minute, which is this ferocious, fast song. And then it, brings down the energy, slows it down, makes it quiet, and then builds it back up. Boach's Dick fucking is one of my favorites. I mean, 1.5 minutes long, but good God.
That song with the last, is it 2 Porno Star or just Porno Star?
I think it's like El Porno Star.
Or
like El Duce? Is that?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But man, I think that's like one of my favorite 1-2 punches to end an album.
Really?
It's just like, it's crazy on Boach's Dick to hear a riff that's more melody driven and then goes into that noise category. And I love the playing by all the members on that.
Yeah.
And then El Porno Star is, you get a drum solo over a repetitive noise riff for the first minute. It's fucking amazing. And then it like shifts into a traditional beat. The bass comes in, big heavy shit. Like that song gets me really amped in a way the other songs don't on this album.
Holy shit. I'm glad to hear that because El Porno Star is actually like one of my least favorite closers of theirs.
Really?
Like,
oh man,
I like it a lot, but there's something that I don't love about the final chunk where it's cool. I love the drums, but it goes on for so fucking long. It is the drum song of the album, 100%.
Yeah. Usually it's like wind down time. So it's almost like a magic trick where it's kind of hard. Well, for me, it's hard to pull that. And I was just as engaged as the beginning. So it does happen, but I'm always impressed when a band pulls that off.
I still like it as a closer. It still feels good as a closer, especially following Boach's Dick, when that opening riff, it's so ZZ Top. It's like, so convincingly ZZ Top. It sounds great.
Man, you stole one of my lines for later on, but yeah, there's ZZ Top in these albums.
There sure is. It sure is. Yeah, this fucking thing, man. It's insanely consistent and equally memorable. I mean, there's so many of their best songs on here. It's like I would say like the biggest collection of their best songs is on this album.
Mm-hmm.
This is like ideal starting point. If you've never heard Shellac, like I would have to say start with this one. Yeah, it's still my favorite. I thought I was going to give it best. I actually thought I was going to give this best and something else personal favorite, but it's the other way around.
I kind of wanted to spread the love around, but I'm just like, oh man, this is daunting, and this just feels like a home run all the way around.
It definitely is a home run. I will say I had a lot of trouble picking worst. And this is, I don't know if you remember, but in a past episode, I don't remember which episode, I talked about Shellac. I name dropped what I said. Not only was their worst album, but was like obviously their worst album. And I was so confident with that opinion. I went into this and felt very differently. And I was confused and I was conflicted for a fucking while. Whatever episode that was, I guess I'm full of shit.
I can't remember what we said on last week's episode, let alone.
Yeah, same. But it was still tough. And I did come out with feeling differently about these albums, but overall,
that's the point of the pod.
Yep.
Or one of the points.
One of the points. I think that the mastering engineer for this album was John Loder. So some bands he's worked with: Crass, check out our episode on Crass; Captain Sensible, of the Damned; Anthrax, Big Black, of course; Poison Idea, check out episode on Poison Idea; Fugazi, check out episode on Fugazi; Throwing Muses, Scream, PJ Harvey, GS Mary Chain. Yeah, and he's in good company. There's plenty of stuff there.
Man, what a legend! And I just looked him up, and yeah, he passed away in 2005. So,
God damn it!
What a great career, though.
Not bad at all. Jeez. But yeah, Alex's best and personal favorite, and my personal favorite, and a fucking brilliant album. It's so goddamn funny. It's so hooky. Perfect place to start. Start here. It's great. It's great.
And then I guess we'll kind of just go over the Futurists right now.
Yeah, we won't be doing an intro like we usually do because we're just going to briefly talk about it. The Futurist. So the Futurist, it was put out in 1997, and I do mean maybe not put out. It was given in 1997 to a group of friends. And by friends, I mean like it was a list of like 700. And I want to find out exactly, actually.
779.
779. And they're all on the front cover. There's also a little blank box at the bottom to write in your own name in case it wasn't there. And the point was like they didn't want to release it officially. They gave it to these people, and then they circled the name on the front cover of the person they were giving it to in case it wound up getting sold and they'd know exactly who sold it because their name is fucking circled on the cover.
What if you just circled so then there's like multiple people's names circled.
You could throw it off. You could throw off the algorithm like that.
Yeah.
if you want.
Circle like 10 people's names.
Yeah. Throw off the trail.
Yeah.
But yeah, for one, it's an instrumental album. And it has no real songs. It has movements. It's separated into movements. I forget it. Like 10? Is it 10 movements?
10
5 movements.
The version I listened to on YouTube had it divided into 10 movements.
Then I'm not misremembering that. It was 10. You're right. No, you're right. It's 10 total with 5 on each side.
Okay.
For the vinyl. And yeah. What did you think about this one?
I liked it. It's not amazing or anything. I wasn't expecting actual melody and full instrumentation the way it started off. I'm glad I got it. I think it's a cool listen for sure.
It's a cool little listen. It is. I mean, if we were counting this with all the other albums, I would give this one worst, 100%. It's actually quite good for background. I think I was playing like Elden Ring or something and I had this on in the background. Like, that's cool. But it is definitely the least developed. It doesn't sound bad. It just doesn't sound quite as polished as everything else. There's way less variety. The songs are long and they're like overly repetitive. I mean, they go on wild without doing a whole lot differently. There's good ideas there. There's good like little motifs. But yeah, I think one of the rumors, I don't know how true it is. Maybe it's true. I don't know. But it was like that they just didn't like it and they weren't satisfied with it. So they just like, well, we're not going to waste it. We'll just give it to friends. But this isn't going to be we're not going to actually put this as a thing of ours or something like that.
Smart. I could see a world where it's more efficient.
Yeah. It's still fine. It's far from like the worst album we've ever covered in this podcast. I mean, good Christ almighty. We recently covered Destiny's Child. But easily, a skippable Shellac album if there was one.
That's fair. It's for like hardcore fans.
Hardcore fans. And even when I was in my most hardcore Shellac phase, I was like, all right, I'm not going to give this more than 1 or 2 listens. It's still fine, but it's like, there's a lot there there's a lot of things you go to Shellac for. A lot of them are missing there. It's a very different style. It's a lot jammier too. It's very elongated album, even though it's quite short.
I think I would have got a kick out of it being younger when I knew less about music. In a way, it's kind of like, their version, like Black Flag has the process of weeding out.
Right. That's a good comparison.
But obviously it's not like an official release the way that is. But I think it could have been like this cool outlier the way that was. Yeah,
it makes me think of Instrument by Fugazi or the Instrument soundtrack, where I don't particularly like that album that much, but it's still different enough to be like, well, that's a nice little departure that they kind of went there and did something like that.
For sure.
But are you ready for the next official album?
I'm ready.
This is 1998 Terraform.
For decades,
this is like the Slint album.
Oh, you know what? despite the fact that there's literally a Slint record right behind me, I didn't even put that together, and I've heard this
Really?
song 1,000 fucking times. Yeah, of
Really?
course. This is. Listen to this.
Yeah.
It sounds like fucking Glenn.
Also, the woman in the song sounds crazy.
Oh. We didn't even talk about some of these lyrics. He's honestly one of my favorite lyricists, despite the fact that you would never kind of see Steve Albini as a lyricist. Maybe.
I love.
Seems more like go on.
I love that this, like most of their albums, is a short album, and this song is 10 minutes.
It's 12 minutes, Alex.
And they basically decided this bass line and this drum beat is 1/4 of the album.
It's literally a third of the album, which is actually more. I hope you all like this bass line. It's not going fucking anywhere, by the way, for the next 11 minutes, 11 and a half minutes.
They're lucky I liked it.
It is a good bass. So I have to lower it now because the song, it's going to take so long for there to be even the slightest change.
Yeah.
Because that song does change. It's 12 minutes. It goes through changes. It goes through big, loud moments. But I'll tell you one thing. The first time it gets big and loud is after 5.5 minutes.
Yes. Well, I think around 4 minutes. I do like the way the guitar comes in. It's just so briefly.
It's very subtle, yeah.
You think it's going to change around 4 minutes, but it's like, hey, I just stopped in to say hi.
Yeah.
And then around 5:36, it crescendos, but again, just briefly.
So briefly.
Yeah.
So briefly. And even though the bass line is just da-da, 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 doing that for a million times, there's still little, like every fucking 20 bars, it'll go it does one little slight change. And it ends up being this really hypnotic song that's you kind of fall into and you kind of get lost in. Having said that, though, it's still 1/3 of the fucking album and it's the opener. So I've been asked by my lady friend, I've been asked by other people, how I would classify like a really badly paced album. This is the album I always say. I cited it on this podcast. Whenever I think of a horribly paced album that I like, it's Terraform by Shellac. This has one of the worst pacings I've ever heard in an album with some of my favorite songs of all time on the album.
I guess I wasn't really, I don't know. It didn't bother me on an initial listen. I wasn't really like, oh man, it didn't get to me.
So there's a couple of reasons why I say it's the worst paced. One, you're dedicating 1/3 of your entire album to track one. So the rest of the album fucking flies by. Mm-hmm. These songs are how long? Fucking 2 minutes, 2 minutes, 2 minutes, 4 minutes, 7 minutes, 2 minutes, 1 minute. Like they're so short. Every song after this is so short. So it's like, it's a little disorienting that you get this long song that feels long because it does feel long. It's not a 12-minute song that goes by fast. And then you get a good chunk of 7 songs that go by super fast. So that feels weird. And then also it has, I would call it a legitimate slog in the middle. I genuinely hate the song Canada, and I'm pretty lukewarm and don't care much for Mouthpiece.
The unexpected ZZ Top hard rock riffs were a surprise for me. And this one, Canada, I could imagine that being a Zeppelin riff in an alternative timeline.
Really?
But it's a Shellac riff, and once the fuzz kicks in that song, I like it. I mean, I like it in general, but the fuzz just cemented it.
At this stage, Albini's guitars sound fucking awesome. Bob's bass is so punchy. It's so powerful.
I just kind of realized looking over my notes, and why you don't like those songs. This is the Slint mixed with classic rock album, because there's something about Mouthpiece where the opening, I'm like, are they doing a tip of the hat to Smoke on the Water by Deep Purple?
It has the same cadence of it. It's not exactly of it, but it's just
not the same.
Yeah. I would even put it Loose by Stooges on there.
Mhm.
It's kind of similar to that. It reminds me of like so the reason why I didn't like it on this album, because it reminds me of a weaker intro to A Minute. You know, A Minute opened with that kind of,
okay. Yeah.
it's like, but it's the whole song. Whereas
Yeah.
A Minute turns into that ferocious, weird minor key dark thing. This is just kind of sticks with that, and it just doesn't do anything for me. Canada, I would consider that one of my least favorite Shellac songs.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but I'm shitting all over this album. Fucking This Is a Picture is genius. I mean, it's so goddamn good.
Yeah, it's also probably some of the darkest / funniest writing in the lyrics when there's a line about finding the perfect wife, but after he dies. He's not going to find his perfect wife on Earth, only after he dies in the afterlife.
It's beautiful and sad.
Yeah.
Albini's lyrics, there's something, because he's always been a bit of not in his later years, but he was quite a bit of an edgelord in the 80s and 90s. But there was something really funny about them, and really like the same way I love a Dead Kennedy's lyric, where it's like it's so blunt and satirical, and I just appreciate the, like, I'm not going to pull any punches. I'm going to say exactly how he had a certain voice when it came to lyrics. Like, I'll say it more on different albums, because there's like specific lyrics that I find to be hilarious. Just like really clever little lines. Entertaining writer. But some of the other highlights here, speaking of the lyrics, House Full of Garbage is one of my all-time favorites. That goddamn bass line is one of the greatest, most nauseous sounding bass lines ever written.
It is the slowest walking bass line I've ever heard. Speaking of lyrics, though, yeah, with the doo-doo
and the feces on the wall.
Yeah.
That's what I mean.
You could just say feces.
No,
or
you gotta say doo-doo. Doo-doo and the feces.
Someone's been listening to 2 Live Crew.
Hell yeah, check out that episode. It's delightful. Like the choice of words. It's not just being shocking. It's funny while shocking. That's what I always love about the way he writes stuff. But that bass line is truly one of the most twisted bass lines ever. And that's the other long song. It's 7.5 minutes. Again, odd to have 2 massive songs and then 2 minutes. But and it's extremely repetitive, but I don't fucking care because I love the bass line so much. I mentioned earlier about the song Killers from that compilation. Same cadence as the bass line to House Full of Garbage. The same exact rhythm, completely different kind of song. It has a very hard rock, hammer on, pull off, fast guitar line. It's a very different song, very cool song, but you could tell that this bass line came from that bass line.
Yeah.
You could definitely feel it.
Got the same DNA.
Definitely. The main riff to Rush Job is fucking weird, to say the least.
Yeah, it's also oddly happy sounding, and perhaps one of the more like rooted in traditional punk music, I think. Obviously not a full-blown punk song, but there's elements where makes you think of it.
Yeah, there's that I don't want to call it a tom. I don't want to call it a chorus, but it gets really poppy. I think Bob starts singing there. It's really catchy stuff. But that main riff is this. For one, it opens up with, it sounds like the bass detuning, like as low as it can go until it's flopping around. But it's just this weird. I can't really describe it. I'm just gonna put on a second of the intro because
pull it up. I think this album is my favorite production wise out of everything. Like,
really? Why?
I just love the way all the instruments sound on this album. And
they do sound great.
Yeah, it's not like a slight to any of the other albums. It's just something about the way everything sounds on here is just amazing.
It's funny because Albini is obviously known for his recording technique and making everything sound so live and in the room with you. So you think that his band would get the special treatment, but like they all have, even though they all share like maybe a template of like all right, it's going to be minimal with overdubs and effects. Vocals are going to be a little bit buried and not a lot of reverb, but it still has a lot of variation between these albums. There are some albums that are like, whoa, they just played that and then released it. They didn't do anything to that album. And this one's like, oh, they actually, you could tell there's like a lot more care into like the acoustic sound of this whole record. But this is Rush Job.
That's the riff.
Nasty stuff.
Fucking nuts. So
that's the kind of shit I'm talking about, where that they can turn that into a riff, and somehow that song ends up being one of the catchiest songs on the album.
It's so strange. It's so strange, and they like told you what the riffs were, and it sounds like a band warming up, or just and like within seconds, it's a full blown song.
It closes with Copper, which is one of the more straightforward songs that are maybe their whole catalog. I think it's the first Shellac song I ever heard. And it's a fairly generic main riff, but it feels real good. It's like a minute and a half long, really catchy. It's very simple.
Yeah, I guess, minute 30, you just gotta be, or minute 50 almost. You just gotta be efficient.
Yeah, I think it's a solid closer. It's always felt good. But yeah, is this one? I almost gave this worst. I was actually very close to giving this worst because the pacing alone. But the highs, we didn't even talk about Disgrace. I don't love the opening riff to Disgrace very much, but it's a great song as well. The highs here are fucking in the clouds for me. Like even though Didn't We Deserve a Look at You the Way You Really Are is 12 fucking minutes. It's a sore thumb of an opener that goes on way too long. I still think it's a cool song. Yeah.
There's a lot of cool stuff. Like you said, I just think those like first three songs are great. The weird songs that make me think of classic rock bands are great. And the shellacness, if you will, of taking ugly things like Rush Job. It's maybe not perfect, but it's still a great listen, I think. Yeah,
not perfect, but a good listen. That's what I'd call it. I'll call it insanely flawed, but with just crazy good highlights. Because of that, I couldn't give it anything bad. I'm just fond of it. I still go back to this one all the time.
Yeah.
Apparently, this album had 7 tape ops. Tom notes some bands have 7 managers. Shellac has 7 tape ops. That's hilarious. Like, that's how serious they are about fucking recording, like the recording process.
What's the tape off?
Oh, tape op. I believe it's a tape operator. Albini recorded to tape up until his death. I mean, that was like what he did. And it's a little bit more involved,
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Fucking wild. Also, the cover art. This is the only album with like cover art. This was taken from a painting by Chesley Bonistel. Tom notes here, he's an old school painter. He died in 86, but Tom said Bonistel's art has been used on multiple Sun Ra releases and also appears on a version of Holst's The Planets. My parents had that record when I was a little kid with different cover art. One of the first records I remember listening to. Yeah, look at that. Connections never end.
No wonder he's so weird.
Yeah.
There's also a Sun Ra documentary I've been meaning around to watch.
Dude, you haven't seen it? Dude, no. I don't even listen to Sun Ra, and that documentary is one of the greatest things ever fucking made.
What kind of fucking world is?
I'm not crazy. I'm not like Mr. Man, where it was like a low budget old one, right?
Is Space is the Place?
Yes.
Okay, fuck. Dude, I guess
you need to watch it. It's so funny. It's so great.
God damn, yeah.
Wild stuff. But time to move on. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Hell yes. This is 2000's 1000 Hertz.
Shellac of North America. Catalog number TG211C.
I could have timestamped this, but
44.1.
Whoa.
This intro has been burned into my brain.
16-bit
You
word
think
length.
this where
Samples
Horace
represented
got the
in 2's
idea
complement
from?
binary. 8 to
It's a little different, but
It's
set
different.
reproducer
But
for
yeah,
reference level.
but possibly.
1000 hertz.
Here we go.
To the one true God above, here is my prayer. Not the first you've heard, but the first I wrote. Not the first, but the others were a long time ago. There are two people here.
Some of my favorite lyrics ever. This song.
Kill them. Or she can go quietly by disease.
And one of the most, honestly, one of the most brutal songs that they've done.
I mean, there's this a part. Fucking kill him already. Kill him over and over again.
Half the song, really.
Yeah.
Where I used to lay my face. That's where you ought to kill her. In that particular place. Him, just fucking kill him. I don't care if it hurts. Yes, I do. I wanted to fucking kill him, but first make him cry like a woman.
Oh, so good.
No particular woman. Let him hold out. Hope that someone or other might come and fucking kill him. Fucking kill him.
Well,
Kill him already. Kill him.
that's the remaining lyrics for the rest of the song.
Is that, which
Yes.
is one of the most memorable openers, I think, of all time. Best.
I get that. I could see that. This is a very strong album. It's weird that it invokes indie rock.
Mm-hmm. At times, yeah.
Yeah,
Like that opener, yeah.
yeah, like that opener. Just nonstop surprises with these guys. Maybe not to average listeners, but cool listeners. You're
Cool listeners.
like,
This
oh,
is-
they're pulling from something different for most albums.
Yeah, because it's to a lay listener, they probably hear this as this band as like as a kind of a one trick pony, or as like they don't evolve that much, but they do some left turns. Like they have this, it's Shellac. Shellac is always sounded like Shellac, but goddamn, there's some weird turns. And this album is the first time they start doing some weird shit.
Yeah,
This is the first Shellac album I ever heard. The first one I ever bought, and
I
man.
remember seeing this album cover a lot.
yeah.
I don't know where. Probably my friend this had it on rotation.
Yeah, this one, man, I've heard this album so many fucking times. So, for one, it opens with "Prayer to God," which is one of the best songs. It's, I mean, so damn catchy. I mean, super catchy. I would say it's their best opener, but like, easily. With some of the most gnarly, fucking visceral lyrics that, yeah, maybe I'm not in that guy's position, the narrator's position, but holy hell, do I understand that feeling of like someone wronged you so bad, so just fucking kill him, like just, and then he starts screaming it by the end of it. It's like, oh God, I feel that.
Very raw and earnest.
Mm-hmm. And then Squirrel Song, you get a 180 where it's still a dark song, but the lyrics are fucking hilarious.
Yeah, really ugly sounding, but obviously it's called Squirrel Song, so it's silly.
It's not only just silly, the last lines, and there were squirrels, real squirrels, and there were thousands. This isn't some kind of metaphor. God damn it, this is real. It's about fucking squirrels.
Oh man, fucking amazing
It's-
shit.
So good. And that riff, it's like a really dark riff. But it's in, I think 12/4, if I'm not mistaken. It's a really crazy, it's a super crazy riff. And then there's a section around 145 that is absolutely masterful. It's a 2.5 minute song, but it still does all these crazy unexpected shifts.
It's a fun one.
Oh yeah.
Sorry, I'm just chuckling about those lyrics. Man, I love the way the drums sound on Mama Gina. Their riffs become unusual even for them on that one. Man, it takes a little while to get going, but when it does, it's just the fuzziest high octane shit, and it kind of plays into the more groovy QRT that has some uneasy
You mean
guitar
QRJ?
or what? Yeah, I don't know why I wrote T. Maybe it popped up. Whatever, the song that starts with Q, like they kind of feeds into that, and that one's like short but sweet. But man, what a journey from Mama Gina to QRJ.
I think this is probably my favorite Paste album.
Yeah,
I could probably make an argument that there's like a couple others that are maybe better Paste, but Mama Gina is like the ultimate bait and switch song because it opens with this hypnotic drum beat with this, ugly, weird solo guitar riff. Such a strange little riff. But it gets kind of hypnotic. It kind of just keeps going and going until it calms everything down. The drums drop out. The bass is doing this little, very, very quiet, hypnotic little droning thing. And Steve is singing really close to the mic and really quietly. And it's getting slower and quieter and quieter. And then that giant, buzziest, fucking noisiest guitar comes in. I feel like it's a way to fuck with the listener. Like you're turning up the volume because you can't hear because it's getting so quiet.
Oh, yeah.
And then it just cuts to the loudest fucking thing ever. And that whole final, 30 seconds or a minute when it gets loud, the drums sound incredible on that one. But QRJ is an instrumental, and I'm starting to think there wasn't an instrumental on Terraform now that I'm remembering. It's like the only album without an instrumental on it. But yeah, QRJ is
don't got time for one.
Don't got time. Spend all the time on the opening track. Yeah, QRJ is a instrumental, but dude, it's so bizarre because it has this sinister, repetitive guitar line, and it sounds like has all these old radio effects and static and all this crazy noise and this terrifying guitar line, and then this bass comes in that changes the mood entirely. It's almost like an indie feel to it. Meanwhile, this fucking dying guitar is on top. It's probably my favorite instrumental out of all of them. It's just so unusual. Such a cool fucking song.
I think I definitely have one later on that is like worked its way into my I think all-time great rock instrumentals.
I agree.
You probably know what I'm talking.
I feel like I do because that one is up there as well for me. If I'm not mistaken.
Ghost is the master of quiet, loud peaks and valleys. It's just sometimes you just want the loud parts on those songs, but this one I enjoyed the quiet parts just as much. I wanted to spend time equally in all parts of the song.
Yeah, it's such a great one. It has this lengthy intro. It's like 50 seconds long. Really great intro. And then at 50 seconds, it kind of intros the next part of the song where it sounds like he's stripping the metal off his guitar strings. That's what that fucking sounds like. It's such a crazy buzzy sound. Insane riff, but it's a super fun song. And I really like the outro to that one as well.
Yeah, I think Song Against Itself kind of dips its toes into sounding like more of the alternative rock indie stuff there, but you do get intermittent fuzz on that, so that's cool.
I love the intro to Song Against Itself. It's one of the poppiest and catchiest riffs I think they've ever done. It's almost uncharacteristic because we don't get too many of those kinds of like poppy riffs, but it's still nice. And then the rest of the song, it's a Bob song. Bob sings this one. The rest of the song is even poppier. It's even more indie sounding. I would say it's probably not one of the strongest songs, but I'm really fond of it.
Yeah.
It feels good.
I think it kind of dips in Canaveral.
Oh, Canaveral?
Yeah.
Really? You don't like Canaveral? I think it's one of their fucking best.
I don't hate anything really, but yeah, that one I was like, if I had to pick a weak point, I think that one.
Oh, you're crazy. I love it. I mean, I love it. It reminds me a lot more of Squirrel Song, I think, than any other song here. Really dark, super dark lyrics to that one. And the final minute, I think, is just so damn good. Love the final minute. I I think it's one of my favorite songs on the album. I think it's it feels like a fan favorite. I don't know if it is. Maybe I'm just fabricating.
I mean,
that,
it might be. I don't think it's a bad song. Just first few goes.
I got you.
Pacing thing.
I got you.
I might come around on it.
I think if there's gonna be a pacing issue, it would be with New Number Order. That's a fucking bizarre song.
I think MF Doom has ingrained a love in me of songs where they slow down and speed up.
Over and over again.
Yeah, where that seems hard already, and then the lyrics are just random numbers.
Yeah, it's one of the funniest song concepts, I think, because for one, it's Todd singing on there. He's talking on there. He's not really singing. Mm-hmm. And he's saying, yeah, you know the number of the numbers, right? You know the order of numbers. Well, we're going to change it. And he just starts listing random numbers in random order. But meanwhile, not only is the song speeding up and slowing down like every other bar, there is no riff. Actually, it's random note after random note played in unison.
Oh,
it's like
shit.
They're all playing it at the same time, but it's actually, if you listen to it, nothing is repeating itself. It's just going, it's just hitting random notes. It's the weirdest fucking song.
Yeah. I guess
novelty
it's more,
almost.
Yeah, more of a novelty song.
Yeah. So one of the reasons why I couldn't deny this being best is ending it with Shoe Song and Watch Song back to back. Two of the most epic songs. I mean, crazy good.
Yes. Also, I didn't know if we were going to get those big black guitar tones in Shellac or not. I would say we don't. And then, so it's always cool when he kind of goes back to that without sacrificing Shellac's sound, without trying to make it big black. And, oh man, yeah, it's the guitar playing in the first minute and a half is just so unique and good. Sorry, good's not a good word.
Good's a bad word.
It is a bad word. But yeah, it's kind of melodic and chaotic, just like the band is. And then it just devolves into metallic noise.
Yeah, it opens with this finger plucked arpeggio. It's really, it's it's clean, basically. It's really subdued. It's moody. It's kind of in a similar way to The Idea of North from Action Park. And it's a Bob song. Bob sings this one, and it kind of eases you in. It's like one of the most mellow things here, and it feels kind of straightforward. This is a dark, moody song, but it's actually pretty. And then fucking it, like you were mentioning, at 3:35 is that the most atmospheric, buzzy, crazy guitar section. It sounds like he's whacking the harmonics on his guitar with like a metal rod or something. It sounds so metallic, and yeah, just never heard anything like it. It's one of their driftiest songs ever. Mm-hmm. And Watch Song, some of the most fun, hilarious lyrics. It's,
hey man, I want to have a fight with you.
He's picking a fight with someone because his watch doesn't work. It's so funny. It's fucking great. Also, the song is great. The intro, it's a very lengthy intro. Mm-hmm. In my heart, it's a legendary intro. It's not really build up. It just takes you on this little trip before the vocals finally come in.
Yeah, there's one part around 2 minutes where I thought the bass was going to do this jammy thing, but it's just the equivalent of a drum fill on a bass is. It's just a quick little fill.
Yeah.
I was like, oh man, I thought he was gonna. It's a very cool texture to the song.
Yeah, it's one of their meanest. It's one of their meanest hard rocking songs. Again, it's another pentatonic hard rock kind of foundation to it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but it's so fun. I remember that. I think that was the second Shellac song I ever heard. And I wasn't sold by it. I thought this is it's kind of funny. It's kind of goofy. It's all right. It's okay. But man, it grows on you. It's a fun fucking song. It's one of my favorite closers of theirs.
It really is. Yeah. I think this is sonically amazing and lyrically funny.
Yeah. Yeah. I really thought this was going to be my personal favorite, but going back to it, it feels so evolved. It feels so fine tuned. Like they weren't just experimenting. It's like it feels way more intentional than that. Cause songs like QRJ, where I can imagine that song on paper being like the experimental instrumental song. But the way it comes out ends up feeling super tight. And even at the very end of the song where the guitar sounds like it's completely detuned and the strings are like flopping around everywhere, it still feels like a part of the song. Like it still feels right.
Absolutely.
It's crazy. Like this is one of their most experimental albums. I wouldn't say their most, but one of their most experimental, combined with also just insanely catchy, memorable, all-time greats. It has the best of both worlds. I think this is fucking one of my favorite albums of all time. Love it. Endlessly engaging.
Awesome.
Hell yeah. So yeah, my best, and one you should all definitely check out. I don't know if this was my first Shellac album, but I don't know if I would say this is like the best introduction to the band, because it does get pretty goofy and weird and a little difficult at spots. But songs like Prayer to God and Squirrel Song and fucking Shoe Song, Watch Song. Yeah, those you can't deny those.
You can't. You really can't.
Yeah. So around the time of the next album, I was a fan when this album was their last album that was out.
Okay.
That's when I discovered them. This was like the most recent album. And I was so eagerly anticipating their next album, whatever it would be, that for a time period, I was like religiously checking the Touch and Go website, because on their bio or on their page, it said Shellac will be releasing a new album between now and like, I don't know what month or what, you know, it's now, it was close to the time. It was close to 2007. So I was like just clawing for any kind of like breadcrumb,
anything.
Like give me something. So when this next album finally came out, I think I got it day one, the day it dropped. I went to fucking Amoeba Records. I remember listening to it in like the backseat of my mom's car with headphones. So this band was a huge deal for me, like growing up.
Yeah.
So yeah, might as well fucking start the next album instead of just ranting and rambling. So this is 2007's Excellent Italian Greyhound.
Now this is going to be a fucking hell of an intro.
Oh, dude. Yeah, this is... takes a little while to get there.
Yeah. Fans of Injury Reserve will remember on our episode, they sampled this song on their second album.
Also, Injury Reserve fans, we're sorry.
We're sorry. We're sorry we didn't cover the mixtapes. We fucked up. That's our bad. That's our bad. We'll do loose ends.
As we come to the close of our broadcast.
So this song is lengthy. Their second longest opener.
This is my farewell.
It's about 2:30 to turn into a quote-unquote real song.
Signing off.
It takes a fucking while, yes.
America,
But love the lyrics. Funny lyrics.
anyone within the sound of my voice. I've got 50,000 watts of power.
So it, like, even if I put on the part where they all come in, it falls apart and goes back to this so quickly after that.
Yeah, it still doesn't do it justice. It kind of turns into like a dirgy Western song.
Yeah. So this song, I mean, it's 8.5 minutes and it takes a while to get going. It has a lot of cool parts. the parts where it gets big and heavy, they feel so fucking good. And the part I think you're talking about comes in at 640, which is damn near the end of the song. Has some of their coolest guitar lines that they've ever done. It feels incredible. And worst least favorite.
Same. We
came together.
Yeah, I was a little worried I was gonna ruin your amoeba trip here, but yeah, it's one of those issues where it's like it's really not a bad album.
No.
But yeah, in the scheme of things, this stands out the least.
So this was the album that I cited in previous episodes, like, oh, they're all great, but obviously this one's the worst. I went back to it like thinking, this is obviously the worst one. I remember this being the worst. I'm confident with that. I'm so confident. And then I listened to it and I enjoyed the fuck out of it. Like,
yeah,
I enjoyed it more now than I did ever before. And I liked it before, even though I thought it was the worst. So it ended up being really tough to actually give this worst because there were some fucking bangers on this one.
Like, Be Prepared has this weird, I guess it's tapping part. I like the funny lyrics about, being born with pants on.
Dude, I was going to, that's one of the songs I was thinking of when I was thinking of how much I love the lyrics. It's about a song about being prepared. I was born wearing pants. I was born with $20 in my pocket. Yeah. I love that shit. It's so fucking colorful.
Yeah, and it's telling me to be prepared, but when those ZZ Top riffs, this is the ZZ riff, ZZ Top riff song. I wasn't prepared. I fucked up.
Fantastic. It comes in that riff comes in around 2.5 minutes. And it's like high energy. It's fucking rocking it. It feels super southern. It feels like ZZ Top. And then right after that, it goes almost sludgy. With these giant bass chords, and it feels wonderful. Also, another hilarious thing about that song, it opens with like a million false starts, like they can't find time with each other.
Yeah,
like you'll hear the count in, and then the bass will start, but the guitar will be late. It's just it does that like for way too long.
Not as funny as Elephant singing covered in shit and hairs, many hairs. It's just
Elephant.
I don't know why the many hairs line got me. Like that was the thing that did.
It's being thorough with its description.
Yeah, sometimes it's just drums and singing, and another example of awesome beats.
Elephant is my least favorite song on the album, and this is why it's one of the reasons I had to give this worst. The pacing here, I think, is better than Terraform. Better pacing, but it's still not good pacing. So Elephant is track 4. I just don't love the main bass line, the main bass chords, the main riff, and then it goes into that very lengthy. It's a very lengthy section where it's just drums and vocals, and then it comes in with another riff that I like better than the main riff, but I still don't quite love it. It just sort of slows the album down for me, and reason why I was having so much trouble like giving this worst is because the song Steady As She Goes, which is track 2.
You really need that high energy after the end of Radio.
If like you need something high energy and fast, and it does that. But the thing is, I have such a fondness for this song because before this album came out, there was a live performance, like a studio live. I don't know if it was like for some sort of channel or something, but it was like a well-produced live video in a room of them playing an early version of the song. If I'm not mistaken, it was like way shorter.
Oh shit.
And that was the only new Shellac song that was available. So obviously I was watching it over and over again.
Yeah.
So when I see it on the album, I'm like, oh hell yeah, it's track 2. I already like the song. When I go back to it now without that detaching that fondness, it kind of stinks. I don't love the song that much, actually.
I thought there was some cool riffage and big heavy parts, but it's far from, one of their most memorable ones.
Yeah, it's just sort of a hard rock song. It's kind of just a hard rock song, just period.
Yeah. On Genuine Lulubelle, is that fucking Strong Bad on there?
So Genuine Lulubelle is their weirdest song ever, and it's not even close. That is, and you make no mistake, that is Ken Nordine the movie trailer announcer guy.
Hell
The
yeah.
one, now he passed on of some years back. That is him. He's uncredited, but that is fucking him.
But it is Strong Bad on there though.
Strong Bad. Wait, who's Strong Bad?
I forget you live in a bubble sometimes. He's
do.
like an internet cartoon character.
He sounded like Murderface from Metalocalypse to me.
He's like, he looks like a Lucha Libre and he's like crudely animated in Flash. Yes, that is Strong Bad on there.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you for clarifying, because I was actually wondering about the other voice as well.
Yeah, I just thought you would know.
No, sir. Plenty of things go over my head that I don't even foresee.
I guess
When
if it doesn't
when
involve music, I should know better.
even when it does involve music, half the time I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. But this song, I am so conflicted with the song because it legitimately used to be my favorite song on the album.
Mm-hmm.
This is a fucking batshit nutty song. I can't even like. So much about the song is unjustifiable.
I think Neutral Milk Hotel fans would like this.
There's a lot of cum talk.
Yep, Jeff Magnum would never. A weird Shellac song, but maybe the best Neutral Milk Hotel song.
It would be far and above the best Neutral Milk Hotel song. So to give like a brief sort of rundown of what the song is, for one, it's 9 minutes. It's very lengthy. And it's mostly a cappella. It's mostly, I mean, I'm talking fucking 3/4 a cappella. But the parts that aren't a cappella there's two actual main riff sections. And I would say these riff sections are some of the best riffs they've ever done. Some of the coolest, craziest riffs they've ever done.
This is the Michael Caine of Shellac songs, because it's very quiet. And then they blow the bloody doors off.
That's exactly it. It is a Michael Caine song. The big sections are so well written and so interesting and so good. But what you have to sit through to get to them is fucking, it seems like a torture device. So it opens with some very gentle, quiet minor key guitar noodling. And then at 1:50, a minute 50, the riff comes in for 30 seconds. And then it drops out for like the next 5 minutes because it's Albini doing singing a cappella, just singing a cappella. And then the fucking Ken Nordine comes in and fucking Strong Bad comes in and they're saying all this wacky shit and they're trading lines back and forth and it becomes very surreal, very bizarre. And it goes on a while. So long, in fact, that the next riff, which is also fantastic, doesn't come in until 7 minutes, 15 seconds.
I'm amazed you have this like aversion to this song. Like, I just thought it was like kind of neat.
It is neat. It is absolutely, and I still like the song a lot. Like I'm shitting on it, but I genuinely, this was my favorite song on the album. I still like the song quite a bit. It's just the reason I'm so baffled is the decision to hide and bury two of the most amazing riffs in one of the most bizarre fever dreams of a fucking song I've ever heard.
I think I gotta support it here. I am a fan.
I'm not going to argue with it.
Of Genuine Lulu Bell.
It's so weird. It's such a crazy song.
Look, when you're a weird band and you can throw big fans like yourself a curveball where you're like, this is fucking weird, even for them. Like, that's. I think in this instance, it's an accomplishment.
And the fact that they never go this weird ever again.
No,
it actually makes me like the song way more because it's so weird. It's so weird, and they don't go anywhere close to it ever again. It's just fucking nutty.
You just seem to do it the once. It's fine.
Yeah. Following that, we have a extremely normal song, Kitty Pants.
You need normal, mellow, short riff. I was like, this is mellow, but they're gonna punch me in the face, and I was surprised they didn't.
They don't. It's beautiful. It's funny because another reason I was so conflicted giving this worse is because I used to hate that song. That was actually my least favorite song on the album. Now I was like, this is beautiful. This is actually one of my favorite songs on the album now.
Age will do that to a motherfucker.
It will. One thing I can't get behind is the main riff to Boycott, though.
I don't know. Are those the break guitars?
No.
Oh, okay.
That's
okay.
brilliant. That's
Yes.
brilliant.
Yes.
The main riff is the chromatic bass line when
Okay.
Bob is singing. I think it's one of the laziest half-written piles of shit they've ever written. But every other part of the song is incredible. So I end up being very conflicted about it.
Also, as we or I should say you noted, Trainer, not a fill guy. The beat man. Here, big arena rock drum fills.
So that's the thing I like about him so much is that he can do all of that. He just doesn't. He has his way of doing things, his own style. And it really is it's such a unique style. Yeah, you can compare it to someone like Dale who uses less notes. You kind of feel the snare hits a lot more, but there's something so herky-jerky about it that feels it still feels really big and satisfying. It's not like a drumbo from Captain Beefheart where it's herky-jerky to the point where you're like it's breaking your fucking brain. It's herky-jerky while still retaining a lot of punch, a lot of power behind it, where it still feels like good cathartic drums when they come in.
And then the best song on the whole album, Paco.
Yeah. This is correct. Yes.
What is that opening? It's the opening riff is almost like someone took a folk guitar riff and sped it up. It's beautiful and haunting. It's some of the band's best stuff. The drum playing is like, it's always tight. It's extra tight here. And it just ended up launching itself into one of my favorite rock instrumental songs. It's fucking amazing.
If I were to give our picks for best in personal favorite instrumentals, personal favorite would be QRJ, best would be Paco.
Yeah.
That first section, it's almost like a kind of similar to Shoe Song with that kind of style finger plucking. But obviously a lot bigger, way more bombastic, way heavier. But that second half, it's almost for some reason that guitar riff reminds me a lot of Morricone. There's something so epic about it. So I don't want to say triumphant because it doesn't really feel like you're overcoming anything. It's really dark. It's really dark, but there's something really big about it, really dramatic about it that it's incredible. It's so goddamn good.
And then, Spoke may be a good song, but not after Paco. It's a serviceable song. It's not bad, but after Paco.
As a song, it is definitely not good following Paco. I like it as a closer, especially because it's so brief. It's 2 minutes. Honestly, I wish it was shorter because it feels like more novelty. For one, the song is fast, heavy drums with Steve and Bob screaming literal gibberish over it. Those occasional guitar and bass chokes, but mostly just drums and them screaming. So it's like, it's a fun idea. It's a high energy thing. It's not, by all accounts, it's not like a revolutionary song. It's them screaming over a drum beat, but it's fun. So I like that in the sense it's a nice little outro. It's a nice novel thing. Paco is just so fucking epic that it makes it feel weaker. The thing that I think is the worst culprit of all, though, weirdly enough, is the intro. It's a cover of one of the little tracks from the Who Sell Out.
Really? I didn't even even pick that up.
So it was a Roto Sound Strings commercial.
I know what you're talking about now.
Yeah. I never even heard the original, or if I heard the Who Sell Out, it was so long ago, you might as well have not heard it. For some reason, that intro always just kind of threw me off, especially following such a fucking epic song. It's like, what the hell? I almost wish they just jumped right into the crazy drum stuff.
Fair enough.
Yeah, this one, I like it so much more than I remember liking it, but still, the pacing is off. There's some baffling songs. Even the baffling songs that I still like, it's still odd. And then just the weak ones, like Steady As She Goes and Elephant. Not particularly bad songs, just sort of average. Yeah, there's something about the flow of this one that
It's off. It's just kind of off.
It's off. Like again, it's not as badly paced as Terraform, but it also doesn't have the highs of Terraform. It has Paco, which is crazy high, but Terraform has like half the album is some of their best songs ever. Whereas there's like 2 or 3 great songs on here with like a good chunk of like good songs and then a couple not so good songs. At least that's how I feel about it.
I would say that's a fair assessment.
Yeah.
That I am in agreement with.
There we go. So both our worst and least favorites. Don't hate us. I don't know. Maybe you should hate us. I don't fucking know. But either way, cool album, crazy band. Right after this up, maybe a year later, is when I saw Shellac live. That was the only time I ever saw them live. Sad I didn't get to see them more, but very, very grateful I got to see them at all live because it was so hard. And that's one of the things that I distinctly remember from that time period of my life. Shellac never came to LA. They never came to LA, and they rarely toured anyway. But when they did, it was most often in Chicago because backyard, and then they'll do like European dates. And I was like, well, just come to, please, for the love of Christ. And then they finally did at the Echoplex. And I remember thinking like, okay, I'm grabbing these tickets as quickly as I can. And I was like, it was, it's hard to have it now as an adult, but as a kid, you remember being so excited for something that you just didn't even want to sleep. You just were praying to teleport to tomorrow.
It's happened to me a few times.
Dude, that was that for me. So it was amazing. And after the show, I went with my brother Robert, of course. And after they played, we were hanging out just sort of in the venue, and we saw Steve, or actually it might have been before they played. It might have been early. We saw him talking to someone, and we're like, should we go like talk to him? Should we go like maybe get something signed? And one of us was like, I don't have a pen. And that was enough reason. That was enough for us to like, we don't have a pen. So we can't do it. Yeah. I'm not entirely bummed by that decision, because I'm sure I would have said something stupid. I was like 16. But still it was nice.
I would think they could at least play like the Wiltern or the Troubadour, but I guess not. Or not the Troubadour.
Troubadour is pretty small.
The Fonda.
Yeah, I'm wondering about that because it definitely sold out very quickly.
Yeah.
Very quickly. It seems like they probably, if I had to guess, they probably wanted to not deal with like a theater.
A smaller venue.
Because when both of us saw Swans at different times this year, they're playing at the Lodge Room, which is not a theater. I mean, it's a theater, but it's a tiny theater, but it's one that I know isn't operated through Live Nation.
Okay. Yeah.
And yeah, you think about like all the things that they're doing now, especially we mentioned the merch stuff. Bands like Swans and bands like Shellac, they don't put up with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that would be my guess anyway.
I don't know how we have 2 albums left. I was like, we've done it, but there's 2 albums left.
There's 2 albums left. This is a long episode. It's not going to be 3 hours. It's not, but we're gonna keep trucking. Let's move. Let's
do it.
Now on to the next one. 7 fucking years later, same gap between Italian Greyhound and 1000 Hertz. This is 2014's Dude Incredible.
This is incredible.
Yeah.
Fucking, I just want a whole country album.
You just want what? You want what?
Like a whole Shellac country album.
Oh yeah. Didn't even think about country. That it does have a twang to it.
Yeah.
This is their most stripped down, raw, bare bones production, I think, of any album. I think in any album that Albini has been on, period.
How did you not think of country right here?
You're right.
Brothers and all my other comrades, let's leave this place.
I was thinking militaristic, but it is very southern.
Yeah.
Perhaps they'll let us fuck them, and on the way we'll have adventure.
So, man, that's
You
a
know
fun
what?
opener.
One time Tom asked me what my walkout music would be if I was a wrestler. And I never know. I think that song is unique enough and no one would ever use it that it's a high contender. It's
Dude,
a high
Not to mention, it's called Dude Incredible. That's a great wrestler
Yeah.
name.
Yeah. It's just been I finally have an answer.
Also, which a funny thing about this album, for one, it's called Dude Incredible, but it's not Dude, comma, Incredible. It's Dude Incredible, like it's a title, like the title of the person, like a Duke, Dude Incredible. That's a perfect wrestler name.
Yeah, that's someone's name.
Fuck yeah. So this album is, I remember when this came out. I was excited when this came out, and I liked it a lot, and I still like it a lot.
I don't know what else came out in 2014. I'm gonna bet this could have made a year endless for me.
Yeah, it's fun as shit. I mean, it's I would say this is one of the more better paced albums.
Mm-hmm.
I would say up there with some of the best paced albums. Not a bad song on here. It has a similar mode the whole way through. But if I had like an overall takeaway, like final, summary, the most stripped down, rawest, least treated production out of all the albums, and the most non-vocal album by miles.
Yeah, it's interesting hearing you say it's like stripped down because the drums always sound good, but I think they sound extra crispy and good on Compliant. Like it's just, oh man, I love the way they sound on that song.
They don't just sound good. They're doing really transformative arrangement things, like the way it's hanging on this one riff for a good while, and then drums come back in, but doing it halftime. Like it transforms the whole feel of the song. Like there's really smart drum choices on that one.
Yeah, around the 3-minute mark, the guitar and bass start doing these like escalating riffs, and then it explodes to close out the song. It's just really well put together there.
It's one of the best songs in the album, and it has such great, like you're saying, the way it escalates. There's this man so I was talking about that section where the drums go halftime. It's just absolutely gorgeous. Those guitar chords that are ringing out in that whole section. It's because it's not really like a melodic song, and then that comes in and it becomes gorgeous. It's got a lot of range. It's a great song.
And then one of the funniest song titles to say out loud, "You Came in Me," is 2-minute prog rock. I'm sure Albini's rolling over in his grave if he's in one with me calling it that, but it is prog rock.
It's got some strong ass bass lines on that one, and it's a lot faster, very lively. You saw them going in a direction. You see 1000 Hertz, you see Italian Greyhound, and then you get this, and it's the most straightforward. It's so much simpler. The songs are short for the most part. There's no dicking around here. There's no crazy experiment. It's like they went full opposite direction, a complete 180.
Yeah. Love the bass playing on riding bikes.
Highlight. Hell yeah.
Yeah. It's also interesting where it's like the bass is kind of the lead or soloing. It's not really soloing, but I'm just going to say that. While the guitar and the drums are very repetitive, which is just unusual no matter what genre of music you're listening to.
Definitely, yeah. It's guitar and drums holding the rhythm and bass doing the melody, but it doesn't feel gimmicky. It doesn't feel like it doesn't feel poorly balanced. Sometimes that we've heard that stuff in the past, and you could always tell it's like, all right, they're doing a thing here. Now the bass is doing this, and it's mixed. So that's the difference. When I've heard it in the past with other bands, it's still mixed like a regular bass line. Bass is doing the bass, guitar is doing it. This isn't that. The bass is so dominating, and it takes up such similar amount of space as guitar in this band that it just feels completely natural.
Yeah, that's a good point to point out. when doing something like this. Like if that's going to be the main star, it needs to be up in that mix.
Mm-hmm. So I said that this is the least vocal album, and that's for two reasons. One, they are so buried in the mix, even for Albini standards, which is pretty buried. They are so buried here. It's fucking funny. And then two, they're actually singing less. Like songs like you Came in Me, it's not instrumental, but I in my brain, I feel like it is because they come in so late in the song.
Yeah.
They're only there for a little bit. And I mean, there's still multiple instrumental songs on here, but the songs that do have singing, they're so buried and they're so minimally placed. It's like they were trying to not sing on this album.
Yeah. Which, maybe some other bands it would hurt, but here it's like,
yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, if I did rankings, this would probably be in like the top 3, I think.
It might be the same for me as well.
Yeah,
I do like this album quite a bit.
What do we got? All the Surveyors? This quirky riffs and big and heavy riffs, really funny. The like singing caca.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot what the bird noise is. Yeah.
What a maniac.
Yeah. This is the album not just with the different vocal choices with arrangement wise where they're doing it less. Steve's voice has gotten goofier here. He's not really screaming as much. The last album is kind of the last time we ever get him with his normal raspy screams. Here, he's just sort of like, it sounds like he's more ranty, a lot more ranty. And that song, not only does he sound pretty goofy on there, but the caca's all over the place. It's funny. It's funny stuff.
People's Microphone, sadly, has nothing to do with Dwayne Johnson.
Unfortunately.
But man, that comes out swinging with those 16th drum note beat and the furious guitars, and then it just settles into their usual like start-stop riffage.
Very stop-start, very choke heavy, very contained. It sounds like an absolute machine. They're so tight, but that opening guitar riff is super chaotic. Very cool sound, a very unusual sound.
I think Gary's interesting because it's a slower, more somber song until it gets angry, but I may be wrong, but it's like the riff is the same. It's this meaner, and I could be wrong about that, but
it revolves around like one, set of riffs, but it does go big and loud and quiet and dark. Kind of alternates between the two. It is about 1,000 times darker than everything else in the album. It's like the edgy, dark, brooding song, which I think it feels great on here because it's a good pacing choice for one. And it's also really fucking memorable. It's good ass writing, good riffs.
Mayor Surveyor is so groovy, so mathy. If I could have them do, there's probably like 5 songs, but I think if I could extend any of their songs into 10 minutes, it would be this one. It
bums me out. It's that short. It's so good. It might be my favorite song on the album.
Yeah.
It's fucking a minute and a half or whatever.
Like I could say that about QRJ, but there's just, I don't know. There's something about this one where like, I might just listen to it on loop, honestly.
QRJ, it has like a journey to it. It has like a story to it. It has like the intro.
I think
and
that's
it goes,
what it is.
Yeah. This one, it's like, this is a really hooky. It's just catchy. It's a catchy meaning thing. For one, it starts off with one version of it and then it changes time signature, same riff, essentially the same riff, but then it just changes the time signature. So it kind of like resets it in your brain. So fucking cool. I love it.
Al from Sleep would never let a riff like that.
No, he played it for 3 days straight. Also on apparently Gary, the lyrics to Gary are credited to T-Bone Slim. He was apparently a songwriter, humorist, poet, hobo, and labor activist from the World Wars.
Okay.
Yeah, he died in 1942. So I don't know if that's exactly where the lyrics were taken from, or if it's just some, but I guess that's what Gary's about. That's what Gary's from.
Yeah, seems like this guy has just like brief. Seems like he had like a interest. Need to look that up.
Yeah, interesting stuff.
T-Bone Slim.
T-Bone Slim. Hell of a name. Easier to remember than his actual name.
Yeah.
Matti Valentin Hutta.
I mean, that's unique, but doesn't roll off the tongue the same way.
T-Bone Slim, that's classic. It's classic stuff.
Yeah. And then Surveyor. Big chunky stuff. And the last minute, man, really shines there.
Yeah, it's not one of my favorite closers, but it feels good. It's got
I think if it wasn't for that last minute, it'd be venturing on to why is this here? But that
yeah, I get that 100%. Yeah, there's even though it's not perfect, but there's still enough redeeming qualities about it. And that's like my only issue with this album is that it's not even an issue really. I mean, I like plenty of albums like this where it's very consistent the whole way. There are still highlights, but the highlights aren't like, giant beams of sunlight the way they are in other albums. They're just really good songs. But there aren't any bad songs and it flows really nicely. It's a very short album.
Mm-hmm. As they all are.
Yeah. Yeah. They're only getting shorter from this point on, but yeah, they went from being progressively more experimental to just straightforward noise rock in one album. I was like, we're just noise rock again.
Kind of. It's so funny how there's like 7-year gaps. Like if it was the year after, it'd be like, well, yeah, they kind of need that. But this
It's
is
7 years to ruminate and like, you know what? We're just going to play a regular song.
I like it.
That was part of the fun of Shellac albums is that you never knew what you're going to get next because it was so long in between. It could be fucking anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you're obviously, it's still going to sound like the band, but yeah, you're either going to get Italian Greyhound or going to get this. It was a little bit of fun in that, but
good stuff.
Good album. Consistent as hell. Probably up there for some of our favorites, or for one of our favorites. But we got plenty that we've discussed, and we have just one left.
I know I'm old because I'm excited to go to bed.
Dude, I am so excited to go to sleep. But yeah, this is the last one, and a little bittersweet. But this came out this year, 2024. This is To All Trains.
Fuck, that's fucking cool.
So cool. And already the guitar sounds a lot more treated than the entirety of Dude Incredible.
I think this is like one of my songs of the year.
Yep. Within seconds of hearing this, I was getting sad because of how much I love that guitar tone. It's the buzziest it's sounded since maybe 1000 Hertz. Tight as ever, man.
We aspire to bronze, but I'll settle for lead. Passed off as gold for the tourist trade, awarded after testing. Urine, blood, and hair. Those three always come as a set. Get that man a medal. Get that man a medal.
Oh, I had to let it get there.
Oh, man.
Dude, we haven't had this in so long. Oh, man.
this album made me so sad because of how much I like it.
Man, yeah, it's fucking good. It's
Dude.
just like, even though I mainlined all these albums, I didn't have to wait a decade or whatever.
10 years since the one before it.
Is this like, fuck, I'm so glad you guys can still play at a high level.
Dude, this is the best. I mean, it's fucked up, man. This is the best Albini has sounded in so long. In fucking 20 years, 24 years. This is the best his guitar has sounded. Not just because there's way louder distortion and it's way buzzier and crazier sounding. There's all kinds of weird bendy shit that he's doing that sounds like like the guitar is breaking. It sounds so cool. It's all over the place.
I do wish that song was longer. Not like the same as Mayor Surveyor, but but also like if it leaves me wanting more, that's a good thing too.
Yeah. By the way, this album is 28 minutes. This is their shortest album. It is gone immediately. This is
it's smart to follow up that opener with Girl from the Outside. It's not as electric, but it's good pacing where you get one of their grimy songs.
That's funny. It's interesting to me because when it comes to track twos, I tend to like where they keep the momentum going. But this time they slow it down, but they slow it down in a way that feels proper. I don't know how to explain it. It feels like the right choice. Like it needed to slow down a little bit because it's still very driving. It's not like a slow song.
No.
And it's another interesting thing about it is it's in 6/8, which is a fairly normal time signature, but it's played in a way that feels odd. And it's because of the what Todd is doing on like the end of the phrasing. He's doing something with the drums that makes it feel like the beat is about to repeat when it shouldn't. It's still a normal time signature, but he's playing in a way that makes it kind of tricks your brain to thinking it's not. Yeah,
it's always cool hearing on a previous episode I said I'm listening to the Jay Dilla biography.
Yeah.
So like he was all about shit like that. So it's I feel like I'm like hyper aware of it. So it's just like, it's cool to notice it.
Definitely. Chick New Wave comes in with some speed and energy.
Yep. One of their noisier riffs, big drum fills. And it continues. These songs are getting in and getting out real quick.
Very brief songs. That one also has a sort of drum solo section in the middle that reminds me of Steady As She Goes, where guitar and bass are hanging on the main thing and drums are just doing whatever the fuck they want.
Tattoos is kind of feels like a throwback where I feel like it's been a while since we've had like the drums try to echo what the guitar is playing. It's always very cool. Everyone's going off on that song. There's an energy about it where I'm like, all three of you are this going hard.
It has great syncopation on that one. Yeah, where it's following the guitar, so the bass kind of has more room to breathe. It does sound like it could have been like on the last album, the riffs for it, but it's still buzzier and more abrasive. And also, the way this one is produced compared to the last one, it just feels so much more satisfying.
It's different tonally too. It wouldn't make sense for them to have similar production.
Yeah, that one was especially bare, and this one, it's not. But believe me, it is not like fancied up. It's not like, all right, we're gonna put all kinds of time and attention into making this cleaned up. It's still very raw, but there was a noticeable amount of studio reverb on all instruments. I'm used to never hearing any reverb at all on vocals, and there's actual studio reverb on the vocals here.
I'm interested to go back and pay attention to the vocals, because also, like, I think it's, not a traditional singer, so they weren't, unless it was like overtly funny, wasn't paying attention. But speaking of that, Wednesday is a more menacing song, and I love the choice to this there's like an eeriness to having all the instruments like stop and just ending it on those lyrics. like just let those like just let them like ring out, even if it's just like a few words.
Right. That one I think is like one of the only times I would call that borderline sludge. There's like maybe one moment on Italian Greyhound where it gets a little sludgy, but this feels like Shellac doing sludge, which is it's not quite as chunky as actual sludge, of course, but it's stylistically very close to it. I thought it was exciting to me. I was like, fuck yeah, dude, fuck yeah.
They've warned me to be prepared. Still not prepared for them going rockabilly on scrapers
or scrappers. Dude, that's a weird one.
I love how simple it is during the verses too, and then it'll just like come back around to the more like rockabilly stuff.
Also, that main riff, even though it is like a rockabilly hard rock riff, it's all fucked up and twisted and bended.
Always, yeah.
It's like it's being warped.
Whenever I reference stuff, it never actually sounds like it. It's just they took it and put it through the shellac filter.
But even in the past, they've done straightforward hard rock riffs where like, it has their style with it, but like, I mean, Steady As She Goes is a hard rock song, hard rock riff. This is like fucked up. You can still register it as hard rock, but it's like, that's fucked up.
Yeah. Days Are Dogs. It's so interesting how it's groovy and off at the same time. I can't really compare it to another song. They're like really playing with timing in an interesting way there.
Yeah, there's a lot of balance to that one. And I ended up digging the bass lines quite a bit. And another overall thing about the production here, the bass is more buried than it's ever been. The bass is quieter on this album than any other album by quite a bit. And oddly enough, I find that to be a boost to that song because there's interesting bass lines there, but they feel more subtle because of the mixing. It doesn't feel like they're like taking over the song or it's like the focal point of the song the way they have been in the past. It feels like it's just a layer there that it's not meant to be the whole song.
Yeah. How I wrote I wrote
Elastic Man, Cock and Ball.
Yeah. Is that fair to say that's the most melody being sung ever across these albums? I mean, you've got like screaming, you got talking, you got some like singing, but I'm like, this is like a melody.
It's a melody. I would say like Prayer to God is a pretty strong melody, vocal melody. There's here and there, but not that often.
Yeah.
That's definitely, that's probably one of Bob's most melodic vocal performances because that's Bob singing that one.
And it's one of the few instances where we get a snare roll instead of a beat.
Oh, right. Yeah. If I had a weakest song on the album, I'd probably pick that one. But I still like the way it's arranged.
I could see that.
Yeah,
I could see that. It's no Scabby the Rat, which
dude,
on top of a great song title, is their most dancey song. Easily
the most dancey. Also, one of their quirkiest.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you're singing about Scabby the Rat. He's got to keep company with these squirrels.
It's the actual composition. It really does sound like an old superhero theme song from the 60s. Where it has that cheesiness to it.
I didn't think about that. I'm excited to go back to that now.
Dude, think about that think about like the old Batman theme from like the 60s Batman. Like there's something like that in the whole structure of it. It's so silly. It's a very goofy song. It's kind of dorky, but I like it.
Yeah. And then despite Scabby having gross lyrics, I think like after it, having something that's more musically gross and ugly, which is I Don't Fear Hell, and just fucking man, that is like an unsettling closer.
Dude,
given the
it's eerie. It's one of the best. It's one of their best closers. Honestly, it's a great song, and it fucking twists my insides when I listen to it.
Yeah, same. Yeah, I only got that like feeling during like Bowie's last album, and then this song,
dude. Yeah, it's painful. It's really one of the best songs in the album. It's one of their best closers. It's an awesome song, earworm of a main riff. But the lyrics, they're great lyrics. They're clever lyrics. They are eerie as fuck. I mean, the song is called "I Don't Fear Hell." I mean, it's come on, dude. And this came out a week after he died. Go fuck yourself with this. It's too sad.
Yeah, if that doesn't fuck you up in the feels, I don't know what will.
Yeah, you ain't human if this song ain't getting you. And it's not a sad song. It's just a dark song.
Yeah, it's just more like the timing of things.
Having said that, though, it's a wonderful final thing to put out, I would say.
Absolutely. Most bands don't get to. Yeah, it's I wasn't expecting to compare it to Tribe Called Quest, but very similar, where they get a last amazing album and then one of the members passes away. So
and that's
it's very hard for bands to go out on high notes, especially when a member dies so suddenly. So I'm stoked. I mean, I'm stoked they got to leave the world with this last one.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, by the end of this discography, like I mentioned up top, it was very bittersweet, very sad. To take a few moments to be like, all right. Whew. And I want to listen to this album so much more because it just came out and it's exciting, but it just takes a little bit out of you. Damn. But we made it to the end. It's another long episode. Shocker. But it's one of these fucking, you want it to be long. This is a good band. You want us to talk about these fucking things in detail. I'm glad. I'm very glad we did this. And we're not even done with Albini because next week we're going to be diving into all kinds of Albini from not just his bands, but everything he's worked on. It's going to be very, very fun. But for now, let's do a little recap.
Best personal favorite, At Action Park, a noise rock classic. Worst, least favorite, excellent Italian Greyhound. Still has some good songs, but pacing's off and the highs are not as high as other albums.
For me, At Action Park, personal favorite. That's the one that changed my little life when I was a young teenage boy, and it still holds up, and it's a perfect place to start for the band. 1000 Hertz, best, because that one is them. It's their perfect form. It's all the craziness. It's all the catchiness. It's just fucking, it's an absolute classic. It's a little bit wilder, but it's a must listen. And Excellent Italian Greyhound, worst and least favorite, just because it has dips, it has weird pacing, it has some average songs. But it's also got Paco. So it's still worth it if you just want to listen to Paco. All right, go listen to Paco, baby, and Genuine Low Bell. Fuck it.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for listening and watching and hanging out. If you want to hang out with us further, subscribe. Like the video, talk some shit in the comments, tell us why we're stupid, or tell us why you like us, because we're talking about the bands you like. We need this community. We need the fucking dorks and nerds. We need you. We love you. We are you. So yeah, hang out. You can follow me on all social media at PanderMonkey and Alex on Instagram at
Every Album Alex.
And please be sure to follow our history guy, Tom Osman, at Tom Osman Sounds on all social media, as well as TomOsmanSounds.com for all his music. He has a podcast called Whatever Comes Next, where he interviews a bunch of indie musicians, and it's actually quite interesting. I recommend you all check it out. There's links to that in the description. And I believe we have a Patreon. Yes, when we need it. We need more people on it. Yes, please. Patreon.com/everyalbumever. That's where you go. You get 2 bonus episodes a month. You get to see our schedule in advance. You get to vote on polls to decide who we cover next. You get to join our Discord and be a part of our community where everyone just talks some shit about music, and it's actually very nice and very communal. We also pull suggestions for new albums that came out this year from the Discord in case you want to see us do an episode on that. And if you're tier 2, then you can suggest an entire discography and we'll cover it on our bigger, longer numbered episodes. In addition to requesting a discography, you can request any album from any discography and we'll do bonus episodes for Patreon on that. There's lots of stuff to do there. It's very, very worth your money. I believe that's about it. Check out my EP. I don't plug it that much anymore because it's old now, but fuck it. Let's do it anyway. I like it. You'll like it. Okay. Closing it out. May I do the honors?
Of course.
It is so hard to pick anything off this. There's so many great songs, some songs that I would love to hear, songs that would be great to close it with. I don't want to be sad. So I have to pick one that's going to make me feel good in addition to being a great ending song.
I like it.
And I think that has to be Watch Song.
Hell yeah.
So thank you so much for listening and watching. See ya.